My sister gave her baby daughter up for adoption. Then I found out the child was my husband's. I confronted them both, leading to court battles and me adopting the girl in the end. At first, my entire family, including myself, assumed it was because Lily was a girl. Melissa, my sister, has claimed to despise girls since she was a child, preferring boys, friends, romantic partners, and co-workers instead. She only surrounded herself with males. When Melissa became pregnant for the first time, she hosted a large gender reveal party with everything decked in blue, in the hopes that it would be a boy. I remember her face had just fallen as pink smoke filled the backyard. She tried to smile, but I noticed her shoulders slump. She spent the rest of her pregnancy spreading articles on toxic femininity and commenting in boy mom Facebook groups about her desire for a son. The next time after Lily was born, things became strange. Melissa would only dress her in gray or beige. She referred to her as the baby, rather than by her name. At family gatherings, she'd say that Lily was overly emotional, needy, and dramatic. The child was only 2 years old. She'd openly tell everyone that she didn't want her. Meanwhile, my husband Tyler and I had been trying to have children for 7 years. We'd gone through everything: substances, operations, and terrible disappointments. I remember asking Melissa whether she would consider giving Lily to us, given that she clearly did not want her. She got this wild look in her eye and told me she'd rather sell Lily than give her to me and Tyler. I still can't believe I assumed she was exaggerating. Melissa was furious when she announced her second pregnancy last year since it was a boy. She stated that if this was a female, she would terminate it. She was determined not to fail again. During her pregnancy, she tested every old wife's tale. She researched Chinese gender calendars, took oils and special medicine, and even considered costly gender selection IVF. We thought it was insane until we discovered she was carrying a son. She went mad, so full of excitement. I recall the gender reveal party. When the smoke became blue, she fell on her knees and cried tears of delight. Lily waddled over to hug her and ask what was going on, but she physically shoved her away, causing her to slip and scrape her leg on a metal swing. It was crazy to watch. We didn't really connect with Melissa for the rest of the pregnancy. And even after she gave birth, our family kept their distance, especially because she had gone away to travel in Europe, where giving birth was cheaper. But then, approximately 2 months after her newborn boy, Noah, was born, we all got on a FaceTime session with 7 other members of the family. At first, it was sweet. Noah was napping, and Melissa was showing him off in his tiny mommy's man onesie. That's when my aunt requested to see Lily. Melissa's eyes widened. She didn't say much, just looked down and claimed she didn't have her. My aunt pressed her to explain, and Melissa acknowledged that she had placed Lily for adoption in mid-December while she was 6 months pregnant with Noah. She claimed she couldn't handle 2 children, and that giving her away before having to buy Christmas presents would save money for her Europe trip. Everyone on the call was shocked. My grandmother began gripping her chest. Her breathing became ragged within 30 seconds, and she continued to gasp Lily's name. I was shouting at Melissa that Tyler and I could have taken Lily, and he looked very uncomfortable the moment I said it. Regardless, the call devolved into mayhem. Melissa disconnected when my grandmother was transported to the emergency room. Tyler was acting strangely when I returned home that night after checking on Grandma. First, I caught him in our bedroom deleting images from his phone. They were all from 4 years ago. The photographs seemed to some resemble black and white ultrasound images. The chronology corresponded to when I was pregnant before miscarrying, so it could have been a coincidence, but I decided to press him a little. I asked him what he was erasing, and he simply stood up and went to the restroom to continue deleting. When he came back out, I questioned what he was doing, and he snapped. He told me I was neurotic, that I should let it go, that Melissa's decision to place Lily for adoption was her business, and that we shouldn't interfere with it. This was bizarre. I had not even mentioned Lily. I recall hiring a private detective the following day. I expressly told him to look into Lily's whereabouts, paternity, and other details to assist me in establishing a CPS case. As expected, the PI worked quickly. In 2 weeks, he had hotel records, credit card receipts, and recovered deleted texts. The timeline was devastating. Melissa had comforted Tyler 4 years ago when I was in the hospital following my baby lost. Lily was born precisely 9 months later. The PI even obtained Lily's DNA from a toothbrush she used to use at my home. It was Tyler's match. I recall having a breakdown when I found out. It took all in me not to yell and blow everything up, but I did not. I remained calm. And a week later, I was sitting in my car outside my apartment holding the manila envelope containing all of this proof. My spouse would arrive home in 1 hour. Melissa was coming around to catch up at the same moment. I saw them both pull into the parking lot at the same moment. Tyler parked his silver Honda next to Melissa's crimson SUV. They got out and shared a short glance before strolling towards the building's door, keeping a safe gap between them. My hands shook as I held the package more tightly. I waited 5 minutes before following them inside. The elevator journey seemed forever. When I approached our apartment door, I could hear their casual and carefree voices within. My key turned in the lock. They both looked up as I arrived. Tyler sat on the couch looking through his phone while Melissa stood at the kitchen counter holding a glass of water. The normality of it made my stomach turn. Tyler said, "Hey babe." Without looking up, "Melissa just got here." I placed the envelope on the coffee table. "We need to talk, all three of us." Melissa rolled her eyes. "If this is about Lily again, I told you it's done. The adoption is final." I opened the envelope and spread the contents on the table. Hotel receipts, phone records, and DNA test results. Tyler's face turned white when he recognized the documents. "What is this?" His voice broke. "You know exactly what it is," I said calmly. 4 years ago, while I was in the hospital after losing our baby, you were with my sister." Melissa actually laughed. "Oh my God, you hired someone to dig into this. That's pathetic." "Isn't it pathetic that Lily is Tyler's daughter?" I asked, holding out the DNA findings. "Is it pathetic that you gave away his child without telling him?" Tyler stood up, his phone clattering to the ground. "This is fake. You're making this up because you're jealous that Melissa had kids and you couldn't." I took out my phone and played the PI recording had retrieved. Tyler's voice filled the room as he spoke with Melissa about protecting their secret and how I would never know Lily's real father. Melissa's laughter stopped. She sat down so forcefully that her water glass cracked. "You recorded us?" "The PI did, from your own security system, Melissa. The one you installed after Noah was born." I organized the papers back into orderly heaps. "I've already filed for divorce, Tyler. Our joint accounts are frozen. You'll be getting papers tomorrow." Tyler grabbed for the paperwork, but I held them back. "Half our money is gone. You can't do this." "Actually, I can. Infidelity tends to affect asset division." I turned to face Melissa. "Did Tyler ever give you money for Lily?" "Child support." Melissa's face twisted. "He said he couldn't without you finding out. He promised once you two divorced, naturally he'd help, but then you kept trying for a baby." They turned on each other immediately. Tyler accused Melissa of trapping him. Melissa shouted about raising his child alone for years. I took a step back as they yelled, their scheme collapsing into mutual blame. The apartment door sprang open. My grandmother walked in, accompanied by aunt and uncle. Despite her recent hospital stay, her eyes were filled with purpose. "Enough." Grandmother's voice broke through their argument. "Melissa, we need to talk about this adoption." Melissa crossed her arms. "It's done. Closed adoption. No contact. I made sure of it." My aunt came forward. "The Sunshine Private Adoption Agency, right? I recognize the name from the papers you signed. I've worked with them before in family court." Melissa's confidence wavered. "So, they're known for their 6-month reversal window. Biological parents can reclaim children if both parents didn't consent." My aunt evaluated Tyler. "Did you sign anything?" Tyler shook his head slowly. "I didn't even know she was pregnant until after Lily was born. Melissa said it was from a one-night stand. I chose a family in Oregon specifically, so you couldn't find her." Melissa told me. "They're probably already attached to her." I took out another document. "Actually, they've been trying to contact you. Apparently, you didn't disclose Lily's behavioral issues, the ones you complained about constantly." Melissa grabbed her phone. "I'll call them right now and tell them to keep her." "They're already driving her back," I answered gently. "They contacted the agency 2 weeks ago about returning her. My lawyer has been in communication with them." Grandmother got closer to Melissa. "You have 2 choices. Cooperate with getting Lily back to this family, or I'll remove you from my will entirely. Noah too." Melissa's face turned red. "You can't threaten me with money." "I just did." Grandmother's voice sounded firm. "That child deserves better than being thrown away because you only wanted boys." Melissa turned to Tyler and grabbed his arm. "We can fight this together. Get custody of our daughter." Tyler jerked away. "Our daughter? You gave away our daughter without telling me. You let me think she was someone else's. You didn't want her either. You were relieved when I said I was handling it." Melissa's voice broke into a shriek. My aunt held up her phone. "I'm recording this conversation, by the way. Your admission that you gave away Lily specifically to hurt your sister will be very interesting in family court." Melissa created a break for the door, but my uncle was blocking her path. "My truck's blocking your car. You're not going anywhere until we sort this out." Melissa's telephone rang. The adoption agency's number appeared on the screen. She responded on speaker, attempting to maintain control. "Missy Melissa, the adoptive family has encountered an emergency and is returning early. They'll be in town tonight. Where should they bring Lily?" "My house," Melissa replied swiftly. "Actually," my lawyer said, speaking over the conference phone, We've arranged for Lily to be brought to her great-grandmother's house. All parties have agreed this is the safest neutral location. Melissa tossed her phone on the wall. It shattered to pieces. Tyler moved away from her as she directed her wrath at everyone in the room. You planned this, all of you. She pointed at me. You'll never be her mother. Never. But neither will you, I replied gently. You made that choice when you gave her away to hurt me. My aunt produced a folder. Tyler, these are parental rights documents. If you sign them, you can avoid prosecution for abandonment and back child support. Tyler's hands shook as he accepted the papers. Prosecution? My aunt explained. You knew about Lily for years but did nothing to help her. Melissa's messages prove you knew. He signed without reading, desperate to save himself. Melissa watched in dread as her final ally crumbled. This isn't over, Melissa hissed. I'll get her back. She's mine. Legally, yes, my aunt replied. But the family court will be very interested in your social media history. All those posts about not wanting a daughter, the adoption motivated by spite, your statement that you'd rather sell her than give her to your family. We left the apartment in various automobiles, forming a convoy to my grandmother's house. Melissa attempted to follow, but was pulled over for reckless driving. When she arrived, the adoptive family's automobile was already in the driveway. I stood on the porch while they brought Lily out. She appeared smaller than I remembered, dressed in a pink coat that I had never seen before. Her hair was longer, pulled back into pigtails. She held a plush elephant. The adoptive mother appeared fatigued. She's been asking for someone named Auntie for weeks, crying every night. My heart broke. Lily looked around at everyone, puzzled and afraid. When Melissa pushed through the crowd, Lily retreated away and hid behind her adoptive father. I don't know you, Lily muttered. Melissa dropped to her knees. I'm your mommy, baby. Remember? But Lily shook her head, drawing closer to the strangers who had cared for her in recent months. She saw me, and her face brightened up with recognition. Auntie, she said, putting her tiny arms around my legs. Where mommy go? I knelt down to her level. I'm here, sweetheart. You're safe now. Melissa's rage-filled cry brought Lily to tears. The scene devolved into mayhem as my grandmother led everyone inside. Lawyers were contacted, and emergency custody paperwork was completed. The battle for Lily had only just begun, but I felt hopeful for the first time in years. The emergency custody hearing was scheduled 3 days later. Those 72 hours turned into a battleground of legal maneuvers and familial warfare, testing every ounce of strength I had left. Melissa turned up at 6 a.m., hammering on the door and demanding her daughter. My uncle had remained the night precisely to prevent this. He opened the door just wide enough to inform her that any communication had to go through attorneys. Melissa attempted to shove by him, but he remained tight. She fled, yelling threats of kidnapping charges. My lawyer, Lily, called an hour later with some unsettling news. Melissa had retained her own counsel and was filing emergency proceedings, claiming that I had engineered an illegal adoption reversal. The adoptive family in Oregon had given sworn statements about Lily's behavioral concerns, including continuous nightmares, refusing to eat, weeping for hours, and calling out for Auntie. They documented everything, which helped in our favor, but Melissa's lawyer claimed they were exaggerating. Tyler arrived at my grandmother's house that afternoon when I was with Lily. She was coloring quietly at the kitchen table, still aloof and perplexed. When she heard his voice, she looked up in recognition but did not budge from her chair. Tyler attempted to approach her, but my grandmother stepped between them. You have signed away your rights, she reminded him coldly. I was coerced, Tyler argued. I didn't know what I was signing. Lily, who had been reading documents in the living room, joined us. You signed in front of 3 witnesses after having the documents explained. That's hardly coercion. Tyler's face reddened. I want to see my daughter. The daughter you never acknowledged for 4 years? I kept my voice calm, not wanting to irritate Lily. The one you let Melissa give away without saying a word? He turned on me, ugly and desperate. At least I didn't have to hire a private investigator to monitor my own family. How long did you plan this? How long did you wait to abduct her? Before I could react, Lily sat up quietly. Why is everyone yelling? We all froze. I moved to her side and knelt beside her chair. Sometimes grown-ups disagree, sweetheart, but you're safe. She glanced at Tyler with those large eyes that were so similar to his. Are you my daddy? The question remained in the air. Tyler's mouth opened and closed silently. Finally, he turned and departed without responding. Lily watched him leave. Then she returned to coloring, as if nothing had occurred. The following morning came a new crisis. Melissa had gone to Lily's old daycare and attempted to retrieve her records, stating that she required them for medical reasons. The childcare director thankfully had learned about the incident through community gossip and refused. Melissa created such a commotion that security was called. The incident was documented and reported to our legal staff. My aunt spent hours preparing documents for the hearing. She discovered Melissa's social media history, years of posts under boy-mom groups, concerns about raising a daughter, and even a deleted post from when Lily was 18 months old, asking if anyone knew any lawyers who did rehoming adoptions. The evidence seemed damning, but Melissa's lawyer said it was taken out of context. The financial pressure began immediately. Tyler had accessed one of our investment accounts prior to the freeze and withdrawn $30,000. My attorney filed quick efforts to retrieve it, but the harm had been done. I had to borrow money from my grandma to pay legal fees. Despite her insistence, I felt sick with humiliation. 2 nights before the hearing, Lily and I were staying at my grandmother's house when we heard glass break. Someone had thrown a rock through the living room glass, accompanied by a note reading, "Stop this or you'll regret it." We phoned the cops, but without confirmation that it was Melissa or Tyler, they could only submit a report. Lily was afraid, clutching to me and wondering whether the nasty people were returning. The morning of the hearing was dark and drizzling. I dressed Lily in purple. She chose a dress in her favorite color. She clutched my hand tightly as we walked inside the courthouse, with my entire family surrounding us like protective walls. Melissa arrived separately, dressed in a conservative suit that I had never seen her wear before, evidently tutored by her lawyer to appear maternal. The courtroom was smaller than I had thought, resembling a conference room. Judge Bennett, a woman in her 60s with acute eyes, examined the stack of paperwork in front of her. Lily sat in my lap, peacefully playing with her plush elephant. Melissa's attorney went first. She was portrayed as a struggling single mother who had made a difficult decision for her daughter's sake. He claimed that the adoption had been lawful and that my family was interfering with a closed case. He portrayed Melissa as a victim of postpartum depression who needed a second chance. When Lily rose to present our case, he laid out the evidence methodically. The social media posts, the tape talks about giving Lily a way to punish me, the fact that Tyler hadn't been informed or consulted, and the adoptive family's documentation of Lily's suffering. He showed a video filmed by Lily's adoptive mother of her screaming for "Auntie" till she vomited. Melissa's composure snapped when they saw her Facebook posts. "Those were jokes," she said, despite her lawyer's attempts to calm her down. "Everyone vents about their kids online." Judge Bennett requested to talk with Lily discreetly in her chambers with only a child advocate present. Those 20 minutes seemed like hours. When they returned, Lily came up to me and buried her face in my shoulder. The judge's preliminary decision was modest yet obvious. Given the circumstances of the adoption, the father's lack of consent, and the child's obvious misery, she granted me temporary emergency possession while a thorough investigation was done. Melissa would have received supervised visitation twice a week at a court-approved institution. The final custody hearing would occur after 90 days. Melissa erupted. "She's not even her real mother. This is kidnapping." "Miss Melissa," Judge Bennett said coldly, "one more outburst and I'll hold you in contempt." Outside the courthouse, Melissa confronted us on the steps. "You think you've won? I'll never stop fighting. Never." "Then you'll keep losing," my grandmother remarked calmly, "because you're fighting for pride, not love." The supervised visits began the following week. The first one was a disaster. Lily cried for an hour, wanting to leave. Melissa attempted to entice her with toys and candy, but nothing worked. The supervisor saw that Melissa appeared more frustrated than concerned about her daughter's suffering. Tyler, meanwhile, had begun dating. Someone knew a woman from his office who had been helping him through his divorce. He posted images of them on social media, calling her his fresh start. The speed was incredible, but it strengthened our case. What father leaves his daughter so quickly? After 3 weeks in temporary custody, Lily began to settle. She still had nightmares and questioned why she had to see that lady. But she was eating better and smiling again. I enrolled her in play therapy and drove her twice a week to help her handle her trauma. The financial strain was severe. Every day, new legal bills piled up. Tyler had cleaned out more accounts than we had expected, leaving me with a large debt from our failed fertility treatments. I sold all of my jewels, car, and other valuables. My relatives offered assistance when they could, but everyone was pushed thin. Melissa's behavior became increasingly unpredictable. She showed up at Lily's therapy appointment and demanded to join the session. When they refused, she waited in the parking lot for an hour, photographing everyone who walked in and out. Her attorney dropped her after she accused him of colluding with us. The second monitored visit went worse than the first. Melissa brought Noah in an attempt to force a sibling bond, but Lily was scared of the baby's sobbing and hid under the table. When the supervisor tried to coax her out, Melissa shouted that Lily was acting dramatically for attention. The visit came to an end early. All of the court dates and emergency calls had a negative impact on my job. My supervisor was accommodating initially, but tolerance wore thin when I had to leave early for the third occasion in a week. Because Lily's daycare reported a meltdown, I was placed on unpaid leave until things calmed. Melissa's new lawyer filed a motion 6 weeks before the final hearing, alleging that I had alienated Lily from her mother. They sought more visits and a psychological assessment of my suitability as a guardian. The evaluation would have cost thousands of dollars, which I did not have. My aunt located a child psychologist who agreed to test Lily for free after hearing our tale. Dr. Larkin had 3 sessions with her, watching her play and gently asking questions. His report was thorough. Lily's aborted adoption had clearly disrupted her attachment and caused stress. She saw me as her primary attachment figure and expressed dread while addressing Melissa. The financial pressure eventually broke me. I sat at my grandmother's kitchen table surrounded by bills, sobbing. I'd always wanted to be a mother, but never in this way. Not drowning in debt while arguing with my own sister over a child that woke up crying every night. "We'll figure it out," my grandmother replied firmly while writing. Another check that I knew she couldn't afford. Family takes care of family. Melissa's third monitored visit never occurred. She arrived inebriated, slurring her words and stumbling. The supervisor refused her access and recorded the incident. Her second lawyer dropped her the next day. With only 4 weeks until the last hearing, Tyler returned with a new tactic. He filed a move to rescind his signed rights, alleging that he had been emotionally influenced. He wanted joint custody with me, shutting Melissa out completely. His filing contained Melissa was declared unfit to be a mother from the start. The betrayal was breathtaking even for them. Melissa went wild, sending Tyler hundreds of SMS, which his lawyer gladly presented as proof of her instability. Their mutual devastation was complete, but it made things much more complicated. Now I was fighting 2 parents instead of just one. Lily's treatment sessions uncovered tragic information. She remembered being left with strangers, crying for me, and being told I no longer wanted her. She thought she had. It was horrible that everyone had tossed her away. The therapist testified that removing her from my care now would result in serious psychological harm. 2 weeks before the final hearing, I discovered Lily cutting her own hair with safety scissors. When I questioned why, she explained that she wanted to seem like a male so that her first mother would adore her. I held her while she wailed, my heart breaking into pieces that I wasn't sure would ever fit back together. The last straw came when Melissa posted a video online, hammered and raving about the conspiracy to steal her daughter. She mentioned names, including the judge and child welfare personnel. Within hours, she was detained for harassing and threatening court staff. Her bond was set at $10,000, which no one would pay. I sat at my lawyer's office the day before the final hearing, exhausted beyond words. Lily evaluated our case one final time. Melissa's abandonment, her inability, and the psychological harm she had caused Lily were compelling proof. Tyler's last-minute involvement appeared to be a frantic grab for control. But the family courts were unpredictable. "Whatever happens tomorrow," Lily blurted out, "you've given that little girl more love and stability in 3 months than she'd had in years. That matters." That night when I tucked Lily into bed at my grandmother's house, she stared at me with serious eyes. "Auntie, will you be my mommy forever now?" I brushed her poorly cut hair, my throat tightening from sorrow. "I'm going to try my very best, sweetheart." She nodded, content, and snuggled up to sleep. I sat beside her bed, watching her breathe, and preparing for the conflict would determine both of our futures. Tomorrow would bring either the family I'd always wanted or the passing away of another child I adored. There was no intermediate ground left. The final hearing began on a frigid Thursday morning. I put Lily in her favorite purple sweater and braided her jagged hair as best I could. She gripped my hand as we approached the courthouse with my family creating a protective circle around us. Melissa came 20 minutes late, unkempt and alone. Her most recent counsel had withdrawn from the lawsuit upon her detention, leaving she should represent herself. She wore the same wrinkled suit from the preliminary hearing, with coffee stains showing on the sleeve. Tyler sat on the opposite side of the courtroom with his new attorney, a sharp-dressed woman, who appeared to have persuaded him that despite signing away his parental rights, he still had them. He avoided making eye contact with everyone. Instead, concentrated intensively on his phone. Judge Bennett entered and promptly addressed the elephant in the room: Melissa's arrest for threatening court personnel. Melissa attempted to explain it away as stress, but the judge cut her off, citing poor judgment and impulse control. Lily presented our case systematically, citing psychological exams demonstrating Lily's attachment to me, documented evidence of Melissa giving her away out of spite, and supervised visit reports highlighting Melissa's incapacity to connect with her daughter. He supplied financial papers demonstrating that I had emptied my savings to provide for Lily, although Melissa had not contributed anything since the adoption. Dr. Larkin took the stand and explained, "Lily's trauma in professional terms caused my chest to ache. The abandoning has resulted in profound uneasiness. She thought she'd been discarded for being wrong. Her bond to me was her sole secure relationship. Removing her now would result in irreversible psychological anguish." Melissa attempted to cross-examine him, but her questions were rambling and accusing. She said he had been paid off and that the entire system was rigged against her. Judge Bennett had to warn her twice for her court romantics. Tyler's attorney stated that her client was manipulated into signing over his rights. She portrayed him as the victim of two scheming ladies while casually ignoring his adultery and abandonment. Tyler testified that he wanted to be involved in Lily's life now that he knew she was his daughter. During recess, I brought Lily to the restroom. Melissa cornered us in the hallway, sinking to her knees and grasping Lily's shoulders. "Tell them you want to come home with Mommy," she implored. "Tell them you love me." Lily backed backward, brushing against my legs. "You're not my mommy. You gave me away." The court officer interfered, but the harm had been done. Lily spent the remainder of the hearing in my lap, face buried in my shoulder, periodically peeping out to ensure Melissa wasn't approaching. When court reopened, Judge Bennett summoned Lily back to her chambers. This time, Lily went gladly, even offering the judge a slight smile. They were gone for 30 minutes. When they returned, the judge had a gloomy frown. She opened her ruling by recognizing the biological relationship between Melissa and Lily. She went on to say, "Biology alone didn't make a parent. Melissa abandoned her child due to gender preference and contempt. She had showed no true concern for Lily's well-being, simply for winning the struggle." The judge recognized Tyler's full absence from Lily's life for 4 years. His sudden involvement coincided suspiciously with his divorce proceedings, and it appeared to be motivated by control rather than real parental concern. His signed waiver of rights was valid and binding. The judge gave me complete legal custody with no visitation rights for Melissa, awaiting the completion of parenting programs, anger management, and psychological examination. Tyler's petition was refused completely. The adoption process could start immediately. Melissa shot to her feet. "You can't do this. She's mine. I gave birth to her." "And then you gave her away," Judge Bennett answered. "This court's primary concern is Lily's well-being, not your regrets." Melissa began to advance on the bench, prompting security to approach her. She turned toward me instead, her face distorted with wrath. "This isn't over. I'll appeal. I'll fight this until you're bankrupt." Tyler sneaked away during the uproar, not even looking at the daughter he claimed to want. His attorney gathered her papers with apparent contempt. Outside the courthouse, my relatives surrounded us with a group embrace. Lily, still perplexed but sensing the celebration, managed a faint smile. My grandmother kissed her forehead as tears streamed down her aged cheeks. That night, Melissa showed up at my grandmother's house with Noah on her hip. She had been drinking. She hammered on the door and demanded to see her daughter. When we did not respond, she began screaming accusations at the windows. Neighbors phoned the cops. I watched from an upstairs window as officers carried her away while my grandma held Noah. Melissa's parents would take custody of him within a week, judging her unfit following several episodes. The adoption proceeded slowly, with background checks, house visits, and court hearings. Lily began kindergarten at a new school where no one knew her background. She became acquainted with a girl named Ava, who also liked purple. 3 months into the process, Tyler sent a single email. "I'm moving to Seattle for work. I won't contest the adoption. Tell her just take care of her." I never replied. Melissa's arguments went nowhere. Her behavior at hearings deteriorated. She lost her job after missing too many shifts. Her parents said that she had turned up drunk, demanding money, and alleging that we had stolen her life. The adoption was finalized on Tuesday. Lily wore a new purple frock and carried a plush elephant that the judge had given her. When asked if she wanted to be my daughter, she gave a somber nod and responded, "Yes, clearly." That evening, as I tucked her into bed in what was now officially her room, she inquired whether Melissa would attempt to take her away again. I smoothed her hair, which was still growing unevenly, and promised to keep her safe. 6 months later, at a school function, I met Ben. His daughter attended Lily's class. He had been widowed and knew complex family relationships. We spoke while the girls played on the swings. Melissa wrote to her lawyer, wanting a photo of Lily. After consulting Lily's therapist, we decided against it. The therapist stated that Lily was finally feeling secure, but contact may erase months of improvement. I returned to work part-time after Lily had acclimated to school. We made do with a limited budget. My grandma assisted with after-school care, and their friendship grew stronger each day. A year after the adoption, I saw Tyler's mother at the grocery store. She hugged me, crying, and expressed her gratitude. "Lily had me. She had tried to contact Tyler about visiting his kid, but he had shut off communication. He says it's easier this way, she muttered. Melissa finally recovered, according to my aunt, got sober, found work, and saw Noah on weekends with supervision. She never ceased alleging that we had stolen Lily, but she had lost her fighting spirit. Ben and I took things slowly. He recognized that Lily came first. Their relationship grew spontaneously. He taught her to ride a bike, and she showed him her paintings. When he proposed 2 years later, he sought Lily's approval first. The wedding was a tiny family affair. Lily was my maid of honor, shining in a purple gown she chose herself. Throughout the reception, she whispered, "Now I have a real daddy too." That night, after tucking her in, I stood in the doorway and watched her sleep. Tyler and I struggled with infertility, and the process was nothing like I had envisioned. But this abandoned youngster had become my entire universe. Lily's still having nightmares. I still went to therapy once a month. Her trauma was not eradicated by the adoption, but she was laughing now, really laughed. She knew she was loved, wanted, chosen. In the end, Melissa was correct in one regard. I would never be Lily's biological mother, but I was her mother in every manner that counted.